I thought I would do a quick tip about curvature versus tangency across a center line. So when you have mirrored surfaces, because there's actually a little funny trick to these, or there's a funny trick to how you think about them. So for this example, I've built this single span guide surface that's on my center line, and then this is my hypothetical surface that I'm matching to it. And I want to make sure that I'm making curvature continuous surfaces, wherever I can, usually. And of course, across the center line, you want it to be curvature continuous, right? So I'm going to go and I'm going to do the match surf command, right? And I'm going to match this. But here's the funny thing. I'm only going to match it to tangency, right? You would think like, I want this to be curvature continuous. Shouldn't I select curvature? And the answer to that is no. Actually, what you want it to be is you want it to be tangent continuous. And let me explain why. So I'm going to set it to tangent. And then I'm going to hide my guide surface. I'm going to mirror this thing over. I'm going to turn on curvature graph. And the definition of something being curvature continuous, right? The rate of change, really the curvature combs need to match, right? The rate of change of the surface, the curvature of the surface needs to match at that seam. And the thing is when you have a pair of surfaces that are mirrored, simply by being tangent continuous, they are by definition curvature continuous, because the rate of change of this surface here is identical to the rate of change of this surface here, because they are mirror images of themselves. And so you might think when you have this guide surface across a center line that you want to go curvature when you're matching it to it. But in fact, all you really need to do, and I would say all you should do typically, is go tangent. So you look at this thing and it's buttery smooth across the center line. You can't see any sort of curvature wobbles, or there's not even a hint that there's a seam there, right? So it looks right. Now let me show you what happens if you do what I say you shouldn't do, right? If you go curvature across this, right? So I'm going to match surf again, and I'm going to match this to this guide surface, and I'm going to say curvature, right? And you can see like, okay, it's changing the shape of this, right? I'm going to turn this off, the guide. Let's turn off my guide. I'm going to mirror this over. X-axis, good. And so you can see what happens when we do this, though, is it really kind of creates a flat spot in our center line. So, and we look at our curvature graph, and you can see what happens is, and naturally this is just a function of matching something to a guide surface, right? You can see, of course, our curvature, because our guide surface has no curvature in this direction, right? Our curvature goes to 0 here at the center line. And so we get, of course, naturally a very flat spotted looking pair of surfaces. Now, this may be the look that you're going for, in which case, great. But most of the time, what I'm looking for across the center line is just a nice, smooth, not having the curvature go to 0 like it does here. So the goofy thing here, of course, is that when you're matching to a guide surface across a center line, you only want to go to tangent, because tangent is curvature. They're the same thing. And so it's a little bit, it took me a while to wrap my head around that concept. But generally speaking, 99 point whatever % of the time, there's not any point to going higher than tangency across a center line. Okay?